The city was cloaked in a heavy veil of darkness, its neon lights flickering weakly against the humid night air, as if struggling to stay alive. At Daniel Williams' sleek apartment, tension wound itself thick as rope, pulling tighter with every passing second. The sound of heels striking the polished marble floor echoed like gunshots. Lily stormed in, eyes blazing, a storm trapped in human form. Daniel didn't look up from the book he was reading, his calmness almost a provocation. "You're reckless, you know that?" Lily hissed, slamming the door so hard the frame shuddered. "Morning kills? In broad daylight? Are you trying to walk into a death sentence?" Daniel closed the book leisurely, setting it down with a deliberate hand. He leaned back, studying her from under heavy lashes, eyes unreadable. "They were vulnerable in the morning," he said coolly. "Less security. Less noise. Less mess." Lily crossed her arms, her frustration radiating off her like heat waves. "You're lucky you weren't caught," she snapped. "One mistake, and you'd be rotting in a cage." Her voice dropped, lethal and cold. "We found the mole. He was leaking intel to Neon Technology." Daniel's gaze sharpened. "You killed him." A faint, dangerous smile flickered across Lily's lips. "Of course. There shouldn't be any loose ends." A thick silence swelled between them. Daniel rose wordlessly, grabbed his jacket and the book, and headed toward his room. Before disappearing inside, he paused, his voice unexpectedly calm. "Well done. You've always been good at what you do. That's why I hired you." Then he continued by saying, "There's a room on the left. Rest there if you want." And with that, he disappeared behind the door, leaving Lily standing in the tension-soaked room. The following morning at the police station, Detective Jang stood shoulder to shoulder with grim-faced officers as the chief of police barked, his voice slicing through the room. "We're under pressure. 2 bodies were found within 24 hours, and both are tied to the Williams case from 10 years ago. The media is already sniffing for blood." He then let what he had said hang in the heavy air. "I want boots on the ground. Janitors, workers, even street vendors. Find the killer, before the public demands our heads." Detective Jang's jaw tightened. He knew this case wasn't going to be solved cleanly. That same morning, Daniel sat hunched in a dim corner of a small cafe, nursing a cup of bitter black coffee. Anonymous places like this made him feel invisible and safe. The bell above the door jingled sharply. A middle-aged South Korean man in a gray jacket slid into the seat across from him without asking. Daniel tensed, every muscle tightening. "You think you're delivering justice?" The man rasped, voice like gravel. "Think you're cleaning up the past?" Daniel looked at him tensely. Then the man leaned closer, eyes glinting with something dark. Daniel's hand twitched as he listened to the man speak. The man's next words twisted like a knife in Daniel's gut. "Did you ever stop to wonder if your father was a victim?" He paused. "Or a criminal?" Before Daniel could react, the man stood and slipped into the crowded street, vanishing like smoke. Heart pounding, Daniel bolted after him, but he was gone. Without hesitation, Daniel raced for the clubhouse. Inside the clubhouse, Minkyu was hunched over his laptop when Daniel stormed in, adrenaline pouring off him. "Minkyu, drop everything," Daniel ordered. Minkyu blinked. "What's wrong?" "I want you to dig up everything about my father. Not his business life, but his personal life 10 years ago." Without a word, Minkyu's fingers flew across the keys. Minutes later, he stopped, his face pale. "Daniel, there's nothing." Daniel stiffened. "What do you mean, nothing?" "I mean exactly that. Public articles. Awards. Glossy magazine covers. No scandals. No enemies. No dirty deals. It's like he was sanitized. The only thing that is there is what he went through before he was sent to prison." Daniel muttered under his breath after hearing this. "This doesn't make sense." Minkyu hesitated and then spoke. "You're still finishing what you started, right?" Daniel's voice was ice. "I will finish what I started and also investigate what truly happened 10 years ago." Elsewhere, Detective Jang sat in his cluttered office, files scattered everywhere. He had also seen the same pattern as what Minkyu revealed to him. Kwame Williams, visionary and an entrepreneur. He had no dirt and no weaknesses. Jang then rubbed his temples, unease gnawing at him. He knew nobody was that clean in the business world. Back at the clubhouse, Daniel asked for information about Mr. Song. Minkyu looked up and asked, "Your father's old secretary?" Daniel then nodded grimly. "He betrayed my father during the trial. Lied under oath." Minkyu then tapped away. A few minutes later, he brought out the information. "He's attending a charity gala for orphans tonight." A slow, dangerous smile curled Daniel's lips. Then he said, "Perfect. Get me in quietly." That night at the charity gala, golden lights bathed the hall. Soft music floated on the air. Laughter and champagne flutes clinked in harmony. Daniel was wearing a sharp black suit, and he was gliding like a shadow through the oblivious crowd. His eyes then locked onto Mr. Song immediately. The old man looked thinner, like a broken shell. When Mr. Song raised his head, his face paled when he saw him. Daniel smiled thinly, and then walked to him. When he got there, he told him to walk with him, which Mr. Song obeyed. Down a dim hallway, away from the lights and laughter, Daniel stopped. He then turned to the man. "You know me?" Daniel asked, voice low. Mr. Song gave a dry, bitter laugh. "How could I not? You're your father's mirror." "You destroyed him," Daniel said. Mr. Song's face twisted with rage, fear, and self-loathing as he spoke. "I destroyed him?" Then he paused for a bit. "I saved myself. Your father was a monster, boy. He was brutal and merciless." "You're lying," Daniel said in response. Mr. Song stepped closer, with venom in his voice. "Face it, you're not here for justice. You're here because you are like him. I know about the murders that happened yesterday. I knew you killed Choi Dong-wook and Kim Tae-jun. You're his reflection." Daniel's hand hovered near his jacket after Song had spoken. Upon seeing what Daniel wanted to do, Mr. Song sneered and dared him. "Go ahead. Show me how different you are from your father." Without hesitation, Daniel drew his gun and pulled the trigger. The muffled shot echoed softly, and Mr. Song crumpled on the floor, blood pooling at his feet. Daniel then crouched and placed a white mask beside Song's body. He then left the corridor, melted back into the crowd, and immediately left. Minutes later, Daniel slumped into the back seat of his car, exhaustion clawing at his bones. "You all right, boss?" the driver asked carefully. Daniel nodded absently. As they drove, the driver asked, "Not going for a second kill tonight? Like how you did it last time?" Daniel's voice was a whisper as he responded to his question. "For the judge. I'll wait. The police would protect him at all cost because they think I would strike. Let them feel safe for a while. The police would let their guard down and then I'll strike." Minutes later, Mr. Song's assistant found him lying in a pool of his own blood. He immediately called the police and alerted the bodyguards and security, instructing them on what to do. Chaos erupted as the order was given. Guests panicked and attempted to flee, but the bodyguards and security personnel stormed in, using force to lock down the venue. They searched every guest and combed the area for the person with the gun. But the shooter was already long gone. 10 minutes later, Detective Jang crouched beside the body, a heavy dread sinking in his chest like a stone. From what he observed, Mr. Song hadn't been tortured or made to suffer. He was killed with a single, clean shot. That meant one thing. Whoever was carrying out these killings was wavering. He pulled out his phone and made a call. "Chief, it's not over. I think the judge who sentenced Kwame Williams is his next target." When Daniel arrived at his penthouse, he saw a small package in front of his door. When he got inside, he opened up the package. Inside was a letter, and it read, "If you want to know the real truth about your father, come to the address stated in the letter. Memorize the address and then burn it." Daniel memorized the address stated in it before tossing the letter into the fireplace and watched it burn. In a penthouse that night, Lily called someone using a burner phone. Minutes later, a gravelly male voice answered. "Report." Lily's voice became cold while she spoke. "Daniel Williams killed 2 of the members on your targeted list yesterday morning. Tonight, he killed Mr. Song." The man chuckled darkly. "Good. Everything is falling into place. He truly is my son." His voice then sharpened as he continued to speak. "Keep an eye on him. If he strays from what he is doing, then eliminate him." Lily's smile was razor-thin as she responded, "Understood." The next morning, at the judge's house, the chief of police and Detective Jang sat stiffly in the living room, speaking with the judge. The judge listened carefully as they explained the murders. His brow furrowed. "Are these murders connected to the Kwame Williams case?" he asked. "Yes," the chief confirmed grimly. Detective Jang added, "There was another killing last night. Mr. Song was murdered by the same person. He served as Kwame Williams' secretary and later became a key witness who testified against him. We believe you're the next target. We're here for your protection. I hope you understand." The judge's face tightened, but he gave a slow nod. "I understand." Meanwhile, Daniel drove alone to the riverside, his heart a raging storm. When he arrived, he sat staring at the flowing water, wrestling with his thoughts. Was this justice? Was it vengeance? Or am I doing the wrong thing? His mother's words echoed in his mind, sharp, tender, and unwavering. Promise me you'll avenge your father. Daniel clenched his fists, his mind racing. The world had already taken too much from him. After a few minutes, he stood up, his decision made. He returned to his car and drove straight to the clubhouse. Inside, Minkyu sat playing a shooting game on his computer. Tell the team to prepare, Daniel said, his voice low and dangerous. In 10 days, we strike Hwang Dae-jin, Daniel said. Then Minkyu's eyes gleamed with grim determination. For nearly a week, the killer had not attacked Hwang Dae-jin, and so the chief of police had withdrawn the protective detail. The silence was taken as a sign the storm had passed. But Detective Jang knew better. One morning, he stormed into the chief's office, urgency carved into every line of his face. We need to still keep protection on Hwang Dae-jin. At least a few policemen, Jang said firmly. This isn't over, he added. The chief looked up, his expression tired. Jang, it's been 10 days. No threats and no movement. We have other priorities now. Exactly, Jang said. It's been too quiet, that's what he wants. The chief exhaled sharply, then leaned back in his chair. 2 officers. That's all I can spare. Jang didn't argue. He simply nodded. 2 wouldn't be enough, but it was all he had gotten. One night, Daniel and his team crouched in silence beyond the hedges, clad in black tactical suit, and stood like shadows. Daniel stood at the center, eyes locked on the house of the man who had sentenced his father to prison, and upon his father's arrival there, he died. Minkyu's calm and precise voice crackled in his earpiece. 2 police officers, one at the front and one on the side. They're armed. Daniel gave a sharp nod, then turned to his team. Disable them. No casualties unless necessary. They nodded and advanced. A faint rustle near the side window alerted one of the officers. Who's there? One of them shouted. Then the first shot was fired. Gunfire exploded in the darkness in quick, sharp bursts as silenced weapons returned fire. Chaos then erupted in seconds. One officer was shot in the chest, but kept firing until he collapsed. The second tried to call for backup, but was gunned down by one of Daniel's men. Inside, Detective Jang descended the stairs just as the first bodyguard at the front was overpowered. Drawing his weapon, he raced back up toward the study. Sir, we need to move, he shouted, grabbing Hwang Dae-jin by the wrist. But before they could reach the hidden room, a shot rang out. Jang staggered and fell, and his blood spreading fast across the marble floor. Hwang Dae-jin screamed. The 4 remaining bodyguards tried to finish the task of securing the judge, but they were overwhelmed. One by one, Daniel's team took them down with brutal precision. Within minutes, was he cornered in his master bedroom. Daniel's team retreated, leaving him alone. Hwang Dae-jin was his burden to carry. Daniel stepped into the room, his weapon steady, his gaze colder than steel. Hwang Dae-jin knelt, trembling. I don't know what this is about, but please. You judged my father, Daniel said, voice icy. You let a lie destroy him, and you never looked back. I judged what was presented, Hwang Dae-jin stammered. The prosecutor provided the evidence. I didn't know. You didn't care to know, Daniel snapped. You sentenced an innocent man. He raised his gun to shoot, but then froze as a voice echoed in his earpiece. It was familiar. Daniel's eyes narrowed. It was the voice of the middle-aged man he'd met at the cafe, the one who had also sent him the letter. You said you wanted justice, the man said calmly. Then take it the right way. This is the right way, Daniel replied, eyes still fixed on the judge. Is it? The man asked. That man kneeling there didn't fabricate evidence. He wasn't bribed. He judged what was given to him. If you want real answers, come to the address I gave you. Daniel's grip on the gun trembled. He's not innocent, he whispered. He's part of the system that buried my father. Maybe, the voice said. But he wasn't the architect. And if you kill him, you have then murdered an innocent soul. Daniel was silent for a long moment, breathing heavily. Then he spoke. Then why didn't you stop me when I killed Choi Dong-wook and Kim Tae-jun? The man answered immediately. Because those 2 weren't innocent. They deserved what you did to them. So drop the gun, before you become the very monster you swore to fight. Daniel stared at Hwang Dae-jin coldly. Then, with a swift motion, he struck the man at the temple with the butt of his gun, knocking him unconscious. Then he lowered the gun, and then placed a white mask which has a red slash across the left eye beside him. Then he turned and left the room. Outside, his team waited. Daniel gave a signal for them to leave. He then climbed into his car. His driver glanced at him through the rearview mirror. "Is it done, sir?" the driver asked. Daniel didn't hesitate and replied with a yes. Then he told the driver to drive. Detective Jang awoke with a low, pained groan, his body screaming in protest. Agony radiated from his shoulder, hot, throbbing, and wet with blood. The cold marble floor beneath him seemed to intensify the sting. Gritting his teeth, he pushed himself up with one trembling arm and staggered to his feet. The house was engulfed in silence. No gunfire. No shouts. No footsteps. Just a haunting, hollow quiet that seemed to echo off the blood-streaked walls. Jang pressed a blood-soaked hand against his wound and forced himself forward, staggering through the corridor. His eyes scanned the aftermath, scattered shell casings, the lifeless bodies of the bodyguards sprawled across the hallway. Some lay twisted with blood pooling beneath them. Others stared blankly at the ceiling, their faces frozen in death. He followed the grim trail to the master bedroom. The door hung ajar, the air inside thick with tension and the acrid scent of gunpowder. When he stepped in, the sight made his breath catch. Huang Daijin lay motionless on the floor, blood trickling down his temple. And beside him was a white mask which had a red slash across the left eye. Jang's heart sank. "No," he whispered, voice raw and hoarse. He dropped to his knees beside the judge, his own injuries flaring with pain. Carefully, he reached for a pulse. Then suddenly, Huang groaned weakly and his eyelids fluttered open, his gaze glassy with pain and confusion. "Jang," he croaked. "They came like ghosts." "You're alive," Jang breathed, a wave of relief washing over him. Huang coughed and winced, the pain tightening his features. "He was going to kill me. Was it a man or a woman?" Jang asked urgently. "A man," Huang Daijin replied, his voice shaking. "He looked Ghanaian, and he resembled Kwame Williams. The man I sentenced 10 years ago." Jang's eyes sharpened. "What did he say?" "He said I judged his father wrongly based on lies crafted by others. That I didn't care enough to seek the truth." Jang's brow furrowed as he knelt closer. "Then why didn't he pull the trigger?" The judge's lips trembled. "Someone spoke to him. I heard a voice from his earpiece. Told him not to do it, and said I wasn't the one who ruined his father, but rather I was just doing my job." A tense silence followed as Jang absorbed the revelation. Someone else was pulling the strings. "I need your phone," Jang said at last. "I have to call for a medic and the police." With effort, the judge reached into his pocket and handed him the phone. Jang took it, stood up slowly, and made the call with urgency. Once done, he glanced once more at the white mask lying beside the judge like a chilling signature. Sirens began to wail faintly in the distance. For the first time, Jang knows how the face of the killer looks like. Although he didn't have a name, it was enough to find this murderer.